Good afternoon and welcome to a second hour of BNC Live. I'm Tashanea Whitlow. We start with a disturbing government report that found more than half of police killings in the U.S. are not reported. Statistics show that from 1980 to 2018, 55% of deaths were unreported or classified as something else. That comes out to more than 17,000 unreported or mischaracterized deaths in a 40-year period. The study also shows racial disparities in who was impacted by police violence.
We found that Black Americans were 3.5 times more likely to be killed by the police than white Americans. Indigenous and Hispanic Americans were almost twice as likely to be killed by the police than white Americans.
Disturbing to say the least. I want to welcome BNC's political contributor Tezlyn Figaro to the conversation. Tezlyn, always a pleasure. I mean, this report just disturbing. More than half of police killings were mislabeled. Why is this information so concerning?
Well, it's concerning, Tashanea, as we continue to push for legislation like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. When deaths have been miscategorized as different cause of death instead of what we know happened, which is what they actually, I want to remind people what they tried to do with George Floyd's case, to try to categorize his death as possibly a drug overdose instead of what we all saw in front of our eyes. Had we not seen that video, had the world not watched that video, imagine what they would have gotten away with. So it just shows the importance of legislation like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act that demands that deaths actually be investigated, and not just deaths, but any use of force, and to put that information in a registry so that the police officer can be held accountable and not just leave to go from one agency to the other. Because if we had that type of accountability, then Derek Chauvin wouldn't have ever even been on George Floyd's neck, because he did have previous occurrences that really just went unnoticed and unaccounted for.
Tezlyn, you know, my first question really should have been, how does this happen? How did this happen? For 40 years?
Well, even longer than that, longer than 40 years, for 400 years, we have seen the injustice of Black Americans and how Black Americans are treated, and how the narrative has been changed as far as what we see and what we know. We can even look at that as Emmett Till. We can look at folks who were hung. We can look at folks who died in prison that were told, that their families were told it was one thing when it was really another. So this has gone way beyond just 40 years. This has been for the last 400 years of not even honoring a Black body enough to explain what happened, why they were murdered, and if that person should be held accountable, because there just not has been value on Black lives. And that's what the Black Lives Matter movement is all about, whether people like that movement or not, and certainly can criticize that movement. But it was founded with the idea of showing that Black life is just as important as else's life. But right now, that is not how people are feeling on the ground, because they have failed to pass this important piece of legislation.
Yeah, Tezlyn, since you spoke of Emmett Till, the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill still stalling on Congress, along with the George Floyd Policing Act. Is Black death normalized to you? Is that what that signifies by those bills just still stalling, not being passed?
Well, what it signifies to me is that this particular administration, Joe Biden, was able to go and make a promise to the family that he did not deliver. I know folks want to say it's not Joe Biden, it's Congress. It is everyone but Joe Biden. But what I tell people is Congress was not there that day in the living room when he called the George Floyd family and made that promise. Congress was not there when they looked to him for hope and belief. I was there, Tashanea, before George Floyd was put to rest, and the conversations that he had, the intimate conversations. You got to think about this. This is a family who was not involved in politics and was thrown into this. And so for them to speak to the President of the United States, that was a powerful thing. And to be told these promises and for it not to happen, it is devastating, not just for them, but for America and the globe. And so not only is it saying not normalize, it is saying that the respect of even just keeping your promise, or at least letting people know that, hey, I've done all I can do. Let me continue to push. It has really just been a slap in the face. And I don't know, any other way to say it other than it's been extremely disappointing to all of the Black voters and all of the allies of Black voters who really marched, cried, chanted all over the globe to see reform and change.
Yeah, the study also says that fatal police violence is a public health crisis, and also recommended proven public health intervention strategies need to be addressed to change these systemic biases. What type of strategies do you feel, Tezlyn, we need to address, or better yet, implement to stop this from happening?
But what I tell people, and the reason why I really hold the federal government to account, is because over 100 cities, this is on the positive side, over 100 cities have implemented some form of police reform. If we look at Mayor Sylvester Turner in Houston, Texas, which is George Floyd's hometown, he banned chokeholds. He also required that that body cameras be released within the first 30 days. He put a ban on no-knock warrants for non-violent offenses. He also came up with a new way for people to file complaints against police officers online and anonymous. He also implemented an oversight board. These are all of the things that he was able to do by executive order on a local police in a local municipality. And guess what? There were unions there as well. So if the local and the state leaders, like Colorado, that was able to end qualified immunity, like New York City, that was able to end qualified immunity, why is it that our federal government can't even get behind any of these policies, like ban chokeholds, if nothing else, at the very least? It says a lot. So when we say, what is it that we can do? A lot of us, or a lot of these leaders, have done all that they can do, and they're waiting for the government to step in to say that although you cannot chokehold someone in Houston, it doesn't mean that you get to go to Austin and be able to choke someone out. The federal government must implement a policy that is over every city and every state. So I do commend, I'm very hard on elected officials, as you know, but I do commend these elected officials for stepping up and making these types of changes. And I don't think they get the recognition that they deserve. Texas is obviously talked a lot about due to all of the abortion issues, and rightfully so. But Mayor Turner is not recognized enough for being able to implement these policies that they said just could possibly not happen. And so they're doing the work. We need the federal government to support in action and not just words.
Absolutely. Tezlyn Figaro, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.